So if you just do a comparison, do a further study, and then you see it's very natural to say we would have made progress in the last 500 years, but that was also stolen from us. And see, where people get real simplistic and say, oh, well, let's go back to where we were 500 years ago. Please don't do that. If the Europeans had lost their Christian religion 500 years ago, and are they going to start wearing those little tutus, you know, and stop bathing? Is that part of how they would reclaim their thing? Or everybody wants to reclaim Christianity, and they'd all start dressing like the Pope and wearing the big hat, and everybody's the Pope. Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing right now with our theology. And you would ask this Pope guy dressed up, oh, so you're followers of Jesus. Jesus? Who's Jesus? I'm all about dressing up. I'm all about the incense. I'm all about passing out the communion. That's where we are right now. So we have to make up for the last 500 years. You know, it's like kind of when people tell us, oh, well, you guys are using computers and you're using the car and what. Well, first of all, you trace the roots of all of the different inventions. They don't go back to Europe. Most of it actually goes back to China. And actually, and a lot of it can be traced to here because they couldn't have developed all that research and development wouldn't have happened without that money. So weren't we the investors, unwilling investors? So yeah, we would have made a lot of progress, and that's not a guess. That's just going by knowing the history. Anybody else? Okay, I brought some books. Well, this is my own copy because I couldn't find the other one. Really important book called Daily Life of the Aztecs, written 1955 by a Frenchman. But sadly, I've read books by our own people written that don't have the passion and the love and the understanding of our own history. Because actually, again, we're pretty damaged as a people. So we write about them, the Aztecs. Again, remember, we didn't call ourselves Aztecs. We call ourselves Mexica, those of us who were Mexica. So that's a really important book for you to start with. We were talking about the genocide, American Holocaust. Very devastating book to read. Very important book to read. One of the few people who've written books on this whole issue of our identity and our history is this gentleman by the name of Guillermo Bonfil Batalla. And he talks about it, mostly about it in Mexico, but it's talking about us as indigenous people and how we need to question who we really are. And then there is this, which was mentioned earlier, American Indian Contributions to the World, which you can get online cheap. It's a little hard to get a hold of at bookstores, but really important book. It's about $25. It works kind of like an encyclopedia. Very important. And this is a new book called Before Columbus, and this is the most updated because it has the whole issue of what's going on in Caral. I don't know if all of you are aware. This huge thing that's happened in archaeology in Caral, which is in Peru, which they found these pyramids down there that are older than Egyptian pyramids. What that does, in case you haven't heard this whole Afrocentric thing that says they brought us civilization, that they basically own the continent, this basically deals with it because this is older than Egyptian, and the carbon 14 dating just keeps being changed. In this book, it's talking about I think it's 3500 BC, but the latest stuff has been pushed back all the way to 3700 BC, and they're still working, so it ain't over yet. And that's basically showing that that's part of the roots, but that's not the whole story yet because there's still a lot of archaeology going on, again, in terms of the Olmecs, a lot of archaeology that's going on, it's even in the whole area, what's called the Caral Supe area, and that has to change actually a lot of the books now. And it becomes a point of pride of understanding how ancient our civilizations are and that we did it on our own. We didn't have UFOs come here. We didn't have the Phoenicians. We didn't have the Chinese. We didn't have the Vikings or Africans or or what is it, the people from Atlantis or the tribes of Israel. See, nobody wants to give us credit for our own intelligence. Yeah, yeah. So, a very important book. Anybody else with a question? Yeah, still working on it. Trying to, just getting a book together. It's a really difficult thing when you have to do a whole bunch of other things, and you appreciate. But then you go back and you learn in history how a lot of books, and we'll use Karl Marx for an example. It took him a long time to get together, the manifesto, to be able to get together the Das Kapital and all that. Because obviously he wasn't a capitalist, and or you go back to the women's movement. There, at least they had a little bit of money. Most of the women who started that had a little bit of money, but they had a hard time getting that going. Or before that, with the abolitionists, getting things going is difficult. So on this, yeah, I kind of trimmed it down from the original idea of what I wanted to do. So I'm going to do an abbreviated version so I can get up by about March. So at least we have kind of a good outline, and a lot of it has about the different accomplishments, and to answer some of the questions actually the young man was asking right now. So hopefully by March we'll be out, and part of it will be on the website, kind of like to help teachers actually, so they can have a nice little slide presentation for it. Anybody else? Okay, we brought some posters, which we're going to be selling to help, again, with some of the work that we're doing, because that's kind of the other thing. Again, to maintain this building, the Tonantzin Collective, they work on maintaining this. And the work that we do, it does take money to keep things going. So those of you who've donated and helped the Tonantzin Collective, or who've helped the Mexica movement, we thank you, and encourage other people to do it, because for the most part it comes out of our own pockets. So we did bring some of the posters, and we brought again some of the codices, so you can take a look at books, and I'll leave these books up here for those of you who want to take a look at them, and that's basically it. Anything? No?
And we're scheduled to be done at 3 o'clock, so if anybody wants to talk about anything or have anything to discuss, you guys can question the presenters, or you can just give feedback. We're planning on doing this next year. Go ahead.
For a long time I was very confused about identity, and he would hear all the time, and it actually took some digging on, you really have to put your own effort into finding out about yourself, because nobody's going to tell you, and so, but the Mexica movement website has taught me quite a bit, actually, and I do spread it to all my friends, and they hear from me all the time, all the time, and I don't let anybody get away with it anymore. I never really have, but now that I've become more informed, I feel more empowered.
Well, but that was the intention, to have our people speak intelligently about our history and about our identity. And obviously our people read it, but white people or African descent people who will come to our website, and they'll learn a little bit more about us, or people of the different Asian ethnicities, and they get to understand a little bit more. But the point you were talking about, dealing with the holidays, because I remember now he was proposing this whole idea of today, and I was like, yeah, okay, because I know a lot of times this is a day that the families can get together, and so I mean, in my family it was never about, well, gee, let's thank the pilgrims and thank whatever. It was, it was a day to get together, because we're limited how many days you can get. In my family, it was like multiple parts of our family. It was big gatherings, and I know that's still happening. And I guess that was one of the things that when now we were talking about it. I said, well, maybe not that many people are going to show up, and so wasn't I more optimistic? No. Although you proposed the idea, but I was saying, I don't think we're going to get that many people.